With no regrets, soO steps onto the stage to attempt once more to claim a first place championship trophy in StarCraft 2. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series Global Finals. Welcome back. I'm Nathanius, joined by Todd, Zombie Grub, and Artosis. soO's story is one that needs no explanation. He's come so close too many times, and this is his next big chance. Artosis.
Oh man, I mean, 6 second places, it's become such a curse. Second places become synonymous with soO. Even though oftentimes we think of him as being the best Zerg player in the world, he doesn't have that championship to back it up. And I mean, as you saw in the video, how much does that hurt, right? Like, he can't even think about himself being embarrassed when he gets second place. He has to talk about how you have to, oh, give it up for Gumiho. He won. Don't think about me. Think about him. He doesn't want his second places to detract from the people who are beating him.
It's an interesting story, one that gives me actually a lot of hope for this series for him. I mean, a foreigner in the finals or soO getting another shot in the finals, like, both stories are amazing, but soO, maybe it's time.
Yeah, I had the chance to talk to him here prior to his match, and he gave me some nerd chills. He was like, I'm treating this tournament as my last. Not as in he's gonna retire, but as in he's only focused on that, and he has been the entire year. He sees this as the most important tournament of his life. That's what he said to me, so I'm very excited here to see this.
Chills.
And there's so much on the line for soO. He's one of the best Zerg players in the world. He came in very strong to this tournament and did not get as much attention as some of the other players that we were talking about, because his story is always in the top 4. His story is always in the top 2. We've seen soO come very far, and we had so many good games in the round of 16 and round of 8, guys.
It was pretty amazing how badly he wrecked his group, right? He's in this group that has Rogue and Neeb, and we kind of thought those two guys would advance, but soO eases his way out and takes down the guy who beat him in the GSL finals.
Yeah, I don't understand soO sometimes, you know? Like, he just easily took out Neeb, kind of paved the way for Rogue as well. This guy just, like, is so good. Gets to the quarterfinals, gets to the semis, and then the finals, it feels like a different dude when he's up there. So hopefully this one, you know, is the time that it changes.
Yeah, he's just played like so well the entire time, and again, like, we keep discounting him, right? We talk about Rogue a lot. Even Dark, I feel, gets more hype than soO a lot of the time. Yeah. Dark, I mean, even not in groups, soO is there, and he's been playing very convincingly the entire tournament. He beats very, very strong people. Again, he beat Neeb that had beaten Rogue before. And very strong performance in the quarterfinals as well. Like, he's really starting to be one of the favorites here to make the grand finals, and not just because of the curse.
Yeah, and truthfully, if you write down all the different Zergs and all their accomplishments within StarCraft 2, is soO not the most impressive Zerg player that we've ever had?
Really above the creator of the universe, Nesty, though?
Even above the creator of the universe, Nesty. 6 GSL finals in modern history. He has the all-time record. He's amazing.
A player to actually be that good throughout the history, different expansions of StarCraft 2, I mean, it's a little unheard of. MVP kind of did it for, like, Heart of the Swarm, and then he retired.
And of course, on the other side of this semifinal is an equally impressive story from our Mexican Terran player SpeCial. Many of you know him as Major. He has been the foreign flag bearer for this BlizzCon. He has surpassed the lands where Nurchio has failed, where Neeb failed, where Snoot failed. SpeCial stands alone as a foreign Terran player who's been playing this game for so long, looking at his best tournament result ever.
You know, I gotta say some words here about SpeCial. I've known this guy for 10 years now, right? And we have all these great stories of Korean players that have gotten so good, right? They've trained for so long. soO's gotten so many second places. What a burden, right? TY has been a pro gamer for 10 years and just won his first tournament. But when you look at the story of SpeCial, back when he was 13 or 14 years old, becoming a top Mexican Brood War player in a time with no infrastructure in esports in the West, especially in Mexico, with having bad latency. I mean, I remember when he first rose up, a lot of the top foreign pro gamers, the top non-Korean StarCraft 1 players, thought he was a hacker because they couldn't believe that a player from Mexico could become so skilled. And after all of these years, just kind of building himself up, continuing to practice, You don't hear him going on like long tangents of rage or anything. He studies the Koreans. He's a student of the game. He's tried so hard. He's gone to Korea multiple times, and here he is through all of it, through all the memes, through all the jokes, and he's in the top 4 playing against the best players in the world with one of his mentors, TY, on the other side of the bracket. I mean, you can't make up stories like this.
He came through in a blaze, destroyed stats, destroyed TY. I want to hear just a few of your thoughts before we get into this match. Todd, Zombie Grub.
Yeah, he had one of the most impressive run in the group stages. He's been looking very confident. He's been destroying people in practice. I watched him back there in the players area, and he's such a great story. It feels like he was destined to reach the highest of heights eventually. Now he's finally there, gets this big chance, and you know, I got to talk with him, and he was talking about the money, like maybe he could win here earlier. I was like, what are you gonna do with it? He told me, I'm actually building a house, so I could actually pay it off if I make the finals here or even win. So it's pretty cool to know that about him.
That'd be pretty good. I just want to remind everyone that SpeCial said that he was practicing with soO and that he beat soO like a lot of the time to face a laser. So this is going to be a really good match.
Very exciting to see how that dynamic plays out. It is time for our first semifinal, ladies and gentlemen. Give a hand for SpeCial and soO.
Thank you very much, Nathanius. It is my absolute honor to introduce the players for our first semifinal match. It'll be between Korea and Mexico. For our first player, he's just one series win away from his 10th grand final appearance. Widely considered one of the best Zerg players in the world. Give it up for soO! Facing soO is the dark horse of this event, having the performance of his absolute lifetime. He's looking to make the grand finals for the very first time. Give it up for SpeCial! Will it be the 6-time GSL finalist, or can our Mexican Terran keep his very special momentum going? Rotterdam and In Control, take it away.
Thank you, Smix. Guys, I'm In Control, he's Rotterdam, and we are hyped for the first semifinal of BlizzCon 2017. It is a TVZ for the ages, says every caster ever, but it actually kind of is. It's a guy that's destined to win a final versus a guy who could be the first foreigner in a BlizzCon final ever.
Yep, in semifinals we always look for storylines and we always find one, but not all of them are as good as this one. This really doesn't need much more hype behind it. It's so damn cool to see Juanito SpeCial here on the stage, working so incredibly hard, had a really good year, started off on fire, and we're like, damn, SpeCial has really grown. Then he had a little bit of a dip, and we started to wonder, you know, was that temporary? No, that wasn't at all. That was just one step back again to make 2 more giant steps forward, going up against this man who's just one of the absolute best Zerg players ever. A joy to watch, a pleasure. He's so damn nice as well. I mean, after that GSL final season 2, when he gave that speech for Gumio, like, I almost broke down in tears behind my computer. I was like, oh my God, that's way too sweet, you know, like, if you smash something right now, we all understand it. But he still stood there as an absolute champion and said, guys, don't focus on me, focus on the winner. From that point on, I was sold forever. I was like, oh my God, what a guy, what a semifinals we have, Jeff.
Absolutely amazing. I mean, looking at both these guys, one of the words that kind of comes to mind for me is consistency. soO, much maligned for that second place. You know, he talked about it in his signature series. It's just so hard on him. But there's something incredible about being so good at your game that in the GSL you make it to the finals that many times. And then on the other side is SpeCial, who never won a WCS stop. He came close. He was always of that level to do it, but got stopped, but was still one of the best. And now here he is, capitalizing on when it counts, actually.
Yep, we are getting ready to hop into the first game of this semi-finals of your WCS Global Finals 2017 as we're hopping into Odyssey.
All right, I hope you guys are hyped in the lower right-hand side. Wearing blue coming from Korea, it's soO!
And on the left top side of Odyssey, we're looking at the main base of our Mexican Terran player. Give it up for SpeCial.
The adrenaline is flying through both these guys. I know that we've been harping on it so much, but this means so much for these guys. Not just the prize pool, not just the competitive drive to win a tournament like this, but the history behind it. What it means for both of them is absolutely gigantic. I love what our hostess was talking about, how SpeCial's been playing for a very long time, but we don't think of him as a big tournament winner. And imagine, you know, breaking out of that mold from being like a small-time tournament winner to winning BlizzCon, and he's actually in striking distance. He just has to get through one of the best Zergs on planet Earth.
Yeah, I really wonder if nerves are going to affect either of these two players. I've complimented both of them so far about how level-headed and how calm and composed they stayed in this tournament. soO went down 0-1 in his first best of 3, wasn't shaken up at all, just bounced back, won the series, won the entire group. And SpeCial as well, I feel like SpeCial was just, he was oozing confidence where he looks at us, he's like, no, I'm gonna beat TY, I'm gonna beat TY. And we're all thinking like, you know, that's the Juanito we know. No, he actually just went up there and he beat TY. And it's been absolutely fantastic, and even against Elazer, I felt SpeCial was very confident, but I think right now he's got to feel it a little bit, Jeff. Like, this is such a huge opportunity.
I would even say against Elazer, I think a little bit of that there. Like, he was, I think, more impressive in the first weekend. Now, against Elazer, obviously, I feel like they were both kind of nervous, and it was a question of minimizing mistakes. As you said, Roddy, getting here, it's going to ramp up. But these, you know, I've ran into SpeCial a couple times at breakfast. He just looks calm.
I know.
Just, you know, I say good luck, and instead of like nervous, okay,
I'd be bouncing around,
no,
Jeff.
I don't even know. I would be shaking so hard I couldn't sleep. But he just says, yeah, you know, playing some StarCraft. So getting into this game, we're gonna have a kind of standard opening coming out from both players. We do see speed being upgraded for soO, getting a little bit of map control, being able to chase off a Reaper if it's coming in or something like that. And then on the flip side, it looks to be just kind of that standard factory, couple of Reapers, a couple of Hellions perhaps. In fact, I don't know if there are Reapers out here, but it will be Hellions almost certainly.
No, I think the big story for a lot of Terran fans out there is how many times are we going to see Mech play in this best of 5? Are we going to see it once, not at all, even multiple times? Now, of course, that can be dangerous because soO just defeated arguably the best Mech Terran player in the world, but he did it with a very specific style. Like, I can imagine, if SpeCial was watching those games, it's like if Gumi would have left a few more tanks behind against a couple of those counterattacks, I actually think that this style would still work. So are we going to see him bust out a couple Mech builds or not? We're about to find out. I'm super excited. I think this is going to be an awesome TVZ where you're going to see multiple different openings. This time we'll see the factory with the reactor on it. Very good chance that we're going to see 4 to 6 Hellions, maybe with Cloak Banshees or a Raven. But it doesn't mean that this is going to be his go-to opening for every one of these maps.
No, that's what I really like about SpeCial, and I think that's a big part of the reason why he's had success, is he doesn't go into a matchup without that confidence that you were talking about, where he's like, well, I don't know, he looked pretty good against that, so I'm going to bow out of it. SpeCial studies the top-notch Koreans. He studies TY, he studies a lot of these guys, and if he thinks a map is good for Mech, he's not going to be intimidated by the fact that soO was able to kind of combat that in a previous matchup. SpeCial, for better or worse, views himself as a person that can execute on a higher level than even some of these other Terran players.
Yep, it's going to be a Viking first, and by the time that Overlord did get pushed away by those Marines, he actually does start Cloak, which I find interesting. He technically could have started it earlier, because even if Zerg play is scouted, you know, they're not necessarily always convinced that it is Cloak Banshee. Now I wonder though, because it's a Viking, then it's a medevac, but he is starting Cloak. So if he would actually go for the Cloak Banshees, which obviously we assume right now, it's going to hit very late, almost oddly late, where it can maybe actually do more damage than when you rush it straight out.
And Kevin, one of the things I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about, we're seeing 3 Queens come out. If he continues that production with this Roach Warren, and he sees the Cloaked Banshee, we know that soO likes to jump on builds like that. Go ahead and give me a Nidus. Get on top of this kind of low unit count, he will do it. And that's one of the things that makes soO so dangerous. He's happy to go to the late game, he's happy to end it in the mid game, and he'll attack you in the early game as well. He can get it in all 3 stages.
SpeCial had a phenomenal hold against Elazer on Acolyte, where that same sort of build happened. But I think there is a chance absolutely for the Zerg if you have a few more Roaches out there, where it was almost only Queens, and obviously Queens don't kill that much. If you do the exact same build, but then you show up with 7, 8, 9 Roaches immediately, it's going to be one hell of a job to defend that with Hellions and Banshee. I think you're spot on, Jeff. The layer felt a tiny bit late. Let's see if SpeCial can do a lot of damage here, and let's see if he can pick up on what is potentially happening on the other side of the map.
He transforms into Hellbats here, but there are Roaches already rolling in. These are a pretty soft counter to these Hellbats. The Viking takes advantage from his Queens. It will go down. kind of sloppily in the background. The medevac starting to take a little bit of damage, but here comes some Hellions in the natural. He's going to try to pull the drones, a little bit of target misfire. There's enough Queens here to maybe soften the unit count, but he's getting on top of a lot of drones there. A big grip does die. Now some misfire going into the Queens. So definitely some damage, Rotterdam, but not as much as could have been, I have to say.
That is a lot of damage. We see 11 drones on the production tab immediately. I just wonder though, are we going to see that Nidus network or not? There is one Spore Crawl in the natural, but there's no Spore Crawl at the third base, so those drones that popped are going to die, and more drones in the main are falling as well against these Hellions.
These Hellions come in and they get 5, 6, 7 even more kills here, adding to that already kind of nice damage earlier on.
Damn.
This is the kind of damage he's looking for. Drone production is coming out from soO. He did already have some roaches out in a decent number of Queens. I believe it was something like 9.
Yep.
No, it's just the 6, but 6 is okay. Not seeing the Nidus Worm, and with these drones coming out, Roddy, is he losing confidence in doing anything?
Yeah, or maybe he didn't want to do it at all. Maybe he just felt, you know what, I think that we are going to have to deal with a bunch of Hellions here. I'm going to make multiple Queens to deal with a potential Banshee as well, and a medevac, and I'm going to have roaches. So he was not supposed to lose that many drones. Now, there are scenarios where losing that many drones is game ending. I don't think that's the case here, because the build of SpeCial, as we see, he's getting +1 vehicle weapons. Another factory is down. These builds are a little bit slower, so he cannot punish soO in the next minute for losing those drones, but it's still a very solid start. Against that many Queens, that many roaches, getting 17 drones, almost any Terran player would be okay with that.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. It's interesting because we have the vision of everything. I actually think he could have gone for a Nidus attack and maybe won there, but to your point, and even just looking at the game, if it doesn't work, he's dead. Losing those drones, failing that attack equals dead. I think soO's happy to have this game carry on and feel a little bit confident against the mech, but we do see kind of a wing of Banshees showing up. And now 1 Banshee, good harass. 3, it's not going to take down a base per se, but all of a sudden a Queen or 2 does not deflect these guys.
Exactly, 1 or 2 Queens is not going to be enough. Even a Queen and a Spore can be in quite a bit of trouble, because obviously the Banshees have a lot of micro potential. More and more roaches have been pumped out for soO. These Banshees are going to show up in the main. There is 1 Queen and 1 Spore. This could potentially do quite a bit of damage for the Mexican Terran.
And it shows up, going to go ahead and feast on the first Roach there. Meanwhile, pushing forward with these Hellbats and a couple of Cyclones, a few actually, 4 of them. But this fight in the open field should not garner much in the way of results. In fact, even a SpeCial landing center mass there, and he should be deflected. The Banshees will also be repelled as one of them does go down. A couple of kills, but nothing great. I have to say, good defense from soO.
Yeah, I really thought there was a chance there that Juanito could have possibly done a lot more damage than he actually did. He did keep a couple of those Cyclones alive, so that's nice. But it felt like there was an opportunity there to do a little more.
And this counter push is kind of a half-hearted one. He is going Hydras behind this, but there is enough Roaches here to give pause. Now, with the Banshees in the air, I think this is more of a just kind of feel me out, see what we're facing. He's seeing a lot of Hellbats, and I think the original count of Cyclones, maybe 1 or 2 more. So he's getting a good idea of what he's facing, but it is going to cost him. The Banshees can drop these Ravagers pretty quick.
Yeah, I wonder if soO is really going to commit to this. This doesn't seem like a moment where he's ever going to get like really that much out of it. Maybe he just wants to reset the unit count a little bit on the other side of the map. As he does take out multiple of these Cyclones, might even be able to get this Siege tank as well. And then in the end, he's going to lose the majority of his Roaches, but I guess that was all right. Roach is not the most expensive unit in the game, and he did kill a bunch of very expensive units on the other side of the map.
I love it, Roddy. I really do. I mean, by kind of trading out those Hellbats, he did get a single tank. So none of it's like super amazing, but without those buffer units getting in mass, all of a sudden Banelings become a little bit more effective. We're seeing Hydras coming out, and Hydras don't like Hellbats or Hellions. So if he can kind of limit those numbers, it gives him a little bit more wiggle room. Going up to his 4th base at that gold base, by also trading out those units, it makes it harder for SpeCial to get out there and harass those mineral lines and slow down soO.
Yep, SpeCial's throwing down his own 4th command center, and he already has an insane amount of SCVs. 79 SCVs on the side of SpeCial. That is a few too many for it being on 3 bases, but obviously the moment his 4th base finishes up, he can transfer all those workers there. We do have tunneling claws completed as well, so that's going to be quite interesting. I don't know if we have any missile turrets in the natural. Okay, well, soO reveals it immediately. I actually think that's very nice for SpeCial. Now he's like, okay, make sure I've got detection everywhere, otherwise that could have been very, very gnarly.
Absolutely agreed. You can see these defenses already going down. On the flip side, to kind of turn it is forced cost on SpeCial as well, so soO is continuing to kind of slow him down. The thing about mech, though, is it doesn't necessarily want to be blitzing out there.
A couple of Roaches have sneaked into the natural. There was no missile turret there yet. Now losing a few SCVs is not that bad. soO obviously doesn't want to lose too many of these drones on the gold.
Yep, quite a few are going to go down here, especially on that gold base where that income can really get ramped up. But these roaches are going to reveal themselves. It's going to cost a scan or two, too, if he decides.
Oh, no, that's your own depot.
Well, he spreads it out. And the harass continues. This base actually never got resumed, so it's just going to get insta-canceled, slowing down SpeCial again. Supplies slightly in favor of soO, but the unit count for SpeCial is starting to get specialized. I couldn't escape that pun if I tried. The tank count is going to be the better answer for roaches and hydras, and still backing it up with those Hellbats allows him to say, hey, if you come close to me to get on top of those tanks, it's going to cost you.
Now, we've seen a lot of harass. We've seen a couple of trades in this game. Overall, it's been quite even up to this point, but I do want to emphasize on how big that snipe is that soO just got on that fourth base. When SpeCial is sitting there with 79 SCVs, you want to get that fourth base up and running as quickly as possible. soO getting a very casual, almost cancel on it, right? 4 roaches in the natural, a couple roaches show up, but that was massive. Really, really big deal, because if you take a look at the main base right now with SpeCial, there isn't much left in the main. If you take a look at his natural, not that much left either. The first patch is already starting to disappear. He needs to get that fourth base up and running.
And SpeCial is going to go for some Banshee harass inside the main base. Meanwhile, there's a lot of blue and red circling each other's bases. soO might be going for the counterattack here. SpeCial is going to jump on top of that gold base, but meanwhile, there's just not much back at home. The Liberators are going to have to do the lion's share of the work, but behind them comes some Hydras. And the roaches are getting on top of the Hellbats. The army here thinning out for SpeCial. This is not looking good. He's going to lose the third and maybe the natural.
Yeah, he lost a lot. He does still have this very powerful army on the other side of the map. Oh, the orbital just goes down like that as well. There were a couple of Hydras, so lifting it off wouldn't necessarily have saved it. soO is going to lose a couple of roaches and queens on the other side of the map, not for that much, but soO does have a monstrous army and he's bringing the majority of his units back. It's safe to say that if soO cleans up this army of SpeCial, SpeCial's in a lot of trouble.
Really tough spot though on the ramp with those tanks. It's going to be very difficult to get kind of a good concave, especially since he's not really bringing forces on top there. He will only come from one angle, but it's a lot of units. He's got a lot of roaches, a lot of Hydras. Circling around, here he goes. He's going to jump on top of those tanks. The flank on the top end, though, does get pummeled by the tanks. He's going to be able to jump on top of them and does clean it up, securing for himself a 50-some-odd supply advantage in Roddy. Losing that base behind this, he was able to replace it immediately, but he straight up lost that orbital. That was expensive and bad.
Yep, and now he obviously still doesn't have a fourth base, nowhere near to be found even. Really unfortunate for SpeCial. He had those 2 tanks coming in from the high ground. If you have 2 more tanks there, I still think he loses the fight eventually, but maybe he takes down 5, 6, 7 additional units, and it would have been a little more manageable. Don't forget, during all of this, the Hive has finished up, so soO can always decide to add in a Viper or 2 if he wants that, or maybe potentially go Ultras. But I think a Viper here and there just to abduct a few units is absolutely fantastic, since SpeCial is starting to become really quite broke, and that's the moment where every unit counts, and every time a Viper shows up and is like, abduct, come over here, you know, that's painful. Those are units he cannot replace anymore.
Worker supply is actually pretty even, and that spells actually kind of bad for soO. He's going to want to kind of focus on this. Game got really aggressive, and that's one of the things that you can get kind of tunnel visioned away from. But if you look at that production tab, he is still squeaking out a few drones here and there. And it's not like he's like critically low at 30 or something like that. He has a decent number for how many bases he has. But there come those Vipers that Rotterdam was talking about, and that's going to be a big X factor. Usually you want to have Vikings or, you know, maybe at worst Liberators to kind of thin them out, to stop them from getting too far in there, maybe Thors, but he has none of that. He's got a few Liberators, but really he's just thinking about surviving against roaches and hydras, and when those Vipers come rolling in, it is going to be a doozy.
It feels like it's been a very clean game from soO ever since he lost the drones, right? We were like, oh, he lost maybe a few too many drones, but it feels like from that point on, he made all the right calls, excellent army movement, kind of avoided a couple of the big fights that would have possibly happened, but he's like, no, we're going to run around a little bit, I'm going to harass you, getting a cancel on that fourth base, massive, I really think was almost game deciding, then SpeCial kind of feeling like, I need to do something now, and of course he did do damage, but if we look at the numbers, there's a good chance that it wasn't going to be enough. SpeCial technically right now just needs to buy time for himself, and that's why he's sending out a couple Liberators here and there, because he's like, hey, I need to get a fourth base, and I need to get much closer to 200 supply than I currently am.
Yeah, and here come those Thors. A few Vikings kind of starting to show up here as well as an answer for those Vipers. The game has slowed down. And behind this, the Liberator's not finding purchase. Like you said, just trying to buy some time. So in that regard, okay, they're they've been a little bit successful. But obviously they could have gotten 5 or 6 drone kills as well, and that would have been really huge. Now here we go. soO has maxed out. He's on 4 or 5 bases now, so he's very healthy, and there's not really much else to do but attack that thinned out Terran, trying to stretch to a 4th base. He's going to circle over, he just kind of probe for it, but sees there's not much. A Liberator tank get picked up immediately. Some high ground defenses are starting to kind of hit into that force, but he's getting on top of that orbital. He's targeting down, It could die. It's getting very low just now to repair. It looks like it might be enough to hold on, but there's just so much Zerg. There's the blinding clouds. He's going to be able to zone this out and jump on top of those tanks. Meanwhile, behind this, more and more SCVs dying.
I mean, maybe we overextended a tiny bit there in the end. I loved everything that soO was doing in the beginning. And if he gets the orbital, this is still a success. But suddenly there were like 4 or 5 tanks there. So SpeCial did get a couple of good shots off. He's still on. He's still alive. Well,
wow.
Not anymore, Jeff.
Too much damage was felt. soO scores first blood. Now, it might seem like kind of a weird ending for you guys on that one, but it was a little bit of a chess move. It's just too much of a trade. SpeCial was already trying to claw his way back into that game, but because the Liberators couldn't get anything done, and because that defense cost him 30-40 supply of units, yeah, he held on, but he had nothing else after that, Roddy.
He had almost no more income, and that's the biggest thing. Maybe he looked at it, he's like, maybe I can land the orbital here, but I'm going to lose a few more SCVs. I've lost too many already. Didn't have much left anymore. Pretty fun game one. I really feel this was kind of like a let's feel each other out type of game one, right? Like, I'll do my thing, you do your thing. Let's see how you react to it. But I gotta say, I love the way that soO played it. Very calm. Didn't really overcommit at one, maybe towards the end, but he was so far ahead that it was okay for him to go up that ramp. Just very calm and composed and made the right choices.
Yeah, and I have to echo your sentiment. We go back to that moment where he has these 6 queens, he's making these roaches, the Banshees show up. A lot of that gets defended. Yes, I think it was like 17 or so drones die in 2 waves of Hellbats, but most of those units died as well. And for us as casters, we look back at SpeCial's base and there wasn't much there, but soO is so confident, so kind of just feeling out that situation to say, you know what, maybe I could attack and win right now, but I feel like if this goes the distance, I'm going to be the one that can get that win, and it was the right call for that situation. So game 1 does go to soO, and SpeCial, it's gut check time now. In a lot of his matches, we go back to the round of 16, he won, I believe it was 2-0, no, he won 2-1 in that last one, but in both times, he was ahead, if I'm not mistaken. And then in his series against the Laser, he looked really calm, cool, and collected, was in control pretty much the entire time there as well. But now against soO, he's got to rally, he's got to come back.
We'll see. Game number 2 is going to be played on Abyssal Reef, potentially a map where we could see more of the same that we just saw, as we are taking a look at the main base of our Korean Zerg, who's getting cheeky. It's soO.
Wow. And his opponent in the lower right-hand side, needing your guys' support. One of the only foreigners that have a chance to go to the finals. It's SpeCial. All right, he's got some fans in the audience. Roddy, what are we looking at?
We're looking at a 12 pool. Now, this is something we see quite often in Zerg vs Protoss. Even in Zerg vs Zerg, you're going to see it here and there. Oh, is he going to do the good old Roach Ravager rush across the map?
Holy
of just
cow.
Like 12 drones? Like,
and I love this. You know what? I don't even know if it's going to work. I love it. In the best of 5, you're up 1-0. You got a game to give. You might have kind of pseudo figured out SpeCial, who can mix it up as well, but sometimes it's a little bit formulaic. He didn't go Reaper game 1, Roddy. Is that the read on this? He says, if you're just going to go straight Marines, you'll never see this coming.
I mean, that is an incredibly fast Roach War, and the other Zerg that SpeCial displayed, Elaser, was one of the biggest hype mans behind this build a while ago when we saw it. And it's almost a year ago, right, that this build was really popular. When we were playing on Habitation Station, a couple of those other maps. Always had 6-7 Ravagers running across the map.
The Reaper.
No economy behind it. Maybe, I'm not exactly sure what soO's reasoning is behind it. Now, this is one of these builds where you cannot make 5 Ravagers and like force the orbital on the low ground to lift off, or even just cancel the orbital and be like, oh yeah, I'm in a great position. Like, no, you need to do, you pretty much need to win, or it needs to be a bizarre scenario where the Terran has like 4 or 5 SCVs left and then you give up. Like, that is acceptable, but other than that, you pretty much need to win. So, I don't know.
I love it. This is what sets soO apart. He's willing to do this. He's willing to adapt in the best of 5. Total Biscuit talked about even adapting inside of the matchup, the game itself. This Reaper is going to go across the map and probably pick up on this. There's like a second layer to this, by the way. A lot of times the Reaper comes back.
Jeff, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, go for it.
I love this. These links are going to show up, and now the Reaper is like, oh no, I want to protect my SCV. So these 2 links force the Reaper to turn around, and this means that SpeCial is still unaware of what is happening on the other side of the map, but it seems like he's sending it out now again. He's like, no, wait, I'm going to ignore that other link. I want to see what's coming for me. Well, it's the Ravagers.
And he's going to lose that Reaper right off the bat. All of a sudden, SpeCial is facing something that he has seen before but needs to react perfectly to. This orbital, this command center, excuse me, will never see the light of day. That's forgotten, but as Roddy said, more has to be done. We have a Cyclone coming out, 2 Marines produced at a time. In the bunker, I like the distance on it. It's a little bit further back so that perhaps the Crocodile can't quite reach the SCVs that are repairing behind it. Well, never mind, he's in.
Oh, and the bunker's gonna take a lot of damage. 1 Marine does get sniped immediately. The SCVs do get pulled, or imagine especially wouldn't be able to get us around there with the Cyclone almost out. Yep, the Overlord is close. It's not there just yet. You cannot lose the Cyclone. SpeCial's entire life depends on this Cyclone right now. He needs to repair it and treat it like it's precious.
Absolutely. He's even picking up the factory because there's just too much damage being incurred on that ramp, but even that lost time of building is going to be really, really hurtful. He has to cancel the Marines. He just picks up the barracks, and it's basically this bunker and just this Cyclone to hold this attack.
Yep, and you're going to be very, very careful. You don't want to lose too many SCVs while you're repairing this bunker. But once again, I do like what you said. The bunker is actually quite safe, so...
He's supply blocked. He lost all the depots. He's only just now remade him behind his mineral line. Here comes the next Cyclone. So much time is lost. Corrosive Vials land on the bunker. It's almost going down entirely. He also has to repair the Cyclone. He's not repairing the bunker. He just now realizes his mistake. Is that enough Corrosive Vial? It does go down. There's no Marines. Well, excuse me, 2 Marines do kill back, but the Cyclone is dead. And SpeCial is falling apart. He's just gonna try to drill through this, but there's so many Ravagers here, and just the 2 Marines to back it up that he only gets the 1 Ravager.
He did just finally cancel the command center. He's trying to get a stop at that as well, but multiple SCVs are still falling. That one Cyclone, though, I mean, he's pushing it back. But Jeff, this is one of these bizarre scenarios where maybe the game does go on. I mean, soO is not done yet. He's still making roaches, still making ravages, but it gets a little bit risky. The biggest problem for SpeCial is that CC didn't finish. So this is not 2 orbitals, it's just 1.
It's just the 1, and he's actually even behind in workers right now. soO is still just producing roaches. He's really leaning into this. A lot of his ravagers are very low in health. Huge supply advantage for soO. He's going to go to the top of the ramp. He feels like he can do it right now. The bunker doesn't get finished. The Cyclone gets pinned back by its own repairing SCVs. He's going to try. No, it goes down, and with it, the hopes of SpeCial. soO 2-0 in this best of 5.
Wow, very quick and easy there for soO. It always gets close when these 2 builds go up against each other. Technically, it feels like it's up to SpeCial, right? Like SpeCial, the ball's in his corner. If he does everything right, he could technically defend it. He waited a very, very, very long time with canceling that CC on the low ground, and I kind of wonder, it's like...
He made mistakes.
Yeah, he knows how all in that build is. He knows how much commitment there is to that build. Maybe he could have canceled it faster, and obviously the supply block that you pointed out.
Supply block, not repairing the bunker, losing a Cyclone.
I think he was maybe he was broke at a point where he wasn't repairing the bunker. Maybe he was out of money. That's a possibility as well. And then he canceled the CC, and then he could finally repair it again.
That could happen.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, a big part of the reason why Koreans are just so darn successful in StarCraft, it's not just their mechanics, they are architects of the best of series. They control their emotions very well as well, but I love the choice to go for this cheese in game number 2. I really feel like it reads into how SpeCial is playing okay, but what I really like about it is, like, let's say it gets deflected hardcore, then we're 1-1. It's okay, soO can do that, but if it wins as easily as soO just showed, all of a sudden he's at 2-0, and now SpeCial is chasing ghosts for the rest of the series. If he wins a game, great, but the next 2, he's got to be like, is this an all-in? Am I getting cheesed again?
And that's also a frustrating lose as well. I mean, that first game on Odyssey, you can just look at it as a competitive player. Okay, made a couple of mistakes, didn't react in time against maybe a few of the roach run-bys, was a little bit out of position. It happens. Plenty of time to bounce back, but losing a game like that against a build that has kind of fallen out of fashion a little bit because Terran players got better and better in defending it. That stings really hard. So if SpeCial can keep his cool right now, stay collected, somehow bounce back in game 3, I already find that incredibly impressive because it's really hard not to get upset after a game like that.
Well, a gut-wrenching game number 2 for sure, but not for this guy. He wants to get in those finals and set history correctly. In the lower left-hand side, in the blue trunks, it is soO.
And on the right top side of Magdepo, we're looking at the Mexican Terran. He's down 0-2. He needs your support. Give it up for SpeCial.
Obviously, Roddy, I want a good best of 5, so I'm the biggest SpeCial fanboy right now. I want him to win the next 2 maps for sure. Obviously, the storyline of a foreigner in the finals would be huge, but on the other side, I can't help but cheer for soO, man. This guy, his entire video is like has a sad, almost somber tone to it. And when you meet him, when you see him on stage, and just hear how he talked about it, I love that Artosis limelighted this, but he was concerned for Gumiho. He's like, don't let my failings, you know, diminish your success. Those are the kinds of guys that can really easily get behind, and he's playing a beautiful series here.
He's played a beautiful tournament so far in the group stage as well. Once again, we can go back over it again. Everybody was looking at Rogue and Neep, and obviously soO was a very dangerous outsider in that group. But the most of the eyes were on Neep and Rogue. But he bounced back. You know, he was down 0-1 in his first series, just won it, and then suddenly won the series against Neep. And like, oh well, soO's in the quarterfinals again. And then obviously he had one hell of a quarterfinals. He had to go really, really deep against a man that beat him in GSL Season 2, which was Gumiho. But even in that series as well, in Game 5, he made all the right moves. It's just been an awesome tournament for soO. And if you look at him as well, he's always smiling, he's always feeling it, you know.
He's a sweetheart. Well, in this game, we're going to return to some semblance of normalcy for right now. soO just going for that kind of very standard opening. Presumably going to get speed for some semblance of map control. And we'll kind of get into that normal dance. You might look at the base setup of SpeCial and raise an eyebrow at that, but that's just this map. It allows you to kind of wall off that natural and begin a defense that you're going to want anyways later. Fairly safe against early game shenanigans as well. But it will be a Reaper this time, and on a map that's not super incredible amazing for a Reaper, but it's just that intel, and it does pair up nicely with the Hellions if you go that route. The grenade, while not doing a lot of damage, does do some stun there, so you can get some pretty decent harass.
Yeah, it's mostly just to have some map presence early on, and you know, if you can get lucky and get a drone somehow, that would be awesome. But in general, Mexico is very hard. Look at this, soO going up to 3 bases. 2 minutes and 40 seconds in, and now I wonder if SpeCial is going to pull the trigger or not. Is he going to make an insane amount of Hellions and Hellbats maybe, and try to apply a lot of pressure? I think keeping this Reaper alive here and maybe try to eventually deny a creep 2 more, at least by time. If those bases are not connected to each other, and SpeCial shows up with Hellions that could potentially morph into Hellbats and maybe a Banshee or 2 as well, as we already have the armory.
That's really fast.
That's going to be so hard to defend for soO.
It is going to be tough, but you know what? I once again have to draw attention to how in love I am with soO's decision-making in just the best of series. This is a different form of pressure. This says, hey, SpeCial, maybe you had a plan for this map. Well, now I'm going to ask you to break away from that and come up with something. And to do that to a guy that's 0-2 and facing elimination is pressure, and that's just an incredible way to, again, apply indirect pressure that way.
Ah, that's cool. He's continuing to build Reapers as well. He already has 2 Reapers. Now Reaper number 3 is on the way. There are 3 Queens on the way for soO. So even though this is a very large map, where normally you see very macro-oriented openings, I mean, in a way, soO's opening is macro-oriented, but it's so macro-oriented, it's going to force out a lot of action immediately, because obviously SpeCial does not want to get soO away with 3 bases this early into the game.
And you know what's interesting, too, behind this, that soO is just barely mining gas. He might have just now put 2 more drones on the gas, so he doesn't really have a whole lot of options in terms of like adding a Roach-born or Baneling Nest anytime too terribly soon. One of the Hellions just go down there. It's kind of a big deal. He still hasn't shown this. Here come the Hellbats with 3 Reapers. And this is a decent answer for Queens. So all of a sudden, soO's going to just have to make Lings to support this.
Yeah, well, and Lings against Hellbats, that's a very tough fight. soO's going to need some fantastic micro here. Maybe SpeCial went a tiny bit too early.
So many Queens.
As the Lings just get the wraparound. A couple of the Hellbats go down.
Queens.
Wow, and soO just smashes this attack with no problem at all.
And a 20 supply advantage, an aggressive third, goes, quote-unquote, kind of unpunished, right? Like he tried to punish it. It ends up being somewhat of a trap, a Roach-born being added there on that production tab. And SpeCial goes from in a bad spot to worse. So losing Hellions and Hellbats, like that kind of, it's not the biggest of deals. It's more that it was a fast third that he broke away from his own macro to try and stop or slow down and did not accomplish that. So soO's running a little bit wild over there. And he didn't do it with, by the way, Banelings or Roaches. It was just more Queens, which is fine for his economy anyways.
You gotta love how fast soO jumped on the gun there. He's like, actually, I think I can take this. And immediately the Lings go forward, gets the wraparound. Queen's in a perfect position. Often Zerg players stay very defensive. They want to try to gather as much energy on those Queens as possible. You want to make maybe a few more drones before you make the Lings. He just went on it. And once it goes back to that first Hellion kill as well, these things, they stack up so much. And a fight that can be one-sided one way could potentially be one-sided the other way. If soO waits a little bit longer, 2 more Hellions shows up and he doesn't kill the first Hellion, with 3 additional Hellbats there, everything could be different.
Little skirmish happening around this tower right now. Just trying to grab some map vision. There's still a lot of Hellions and some Cyclones out there. This has been kind of the standard follow-up force from SpeCial in a lot of these TVZs, where that gives him some map control. It doesn't threaten the win or something like that, but if a Creep Tumor bleeds too far forward, or some Lings, he'll go ahead and kind of diminish their numbers so that he can have the vision. But we see double Evo behind this. It is that range style, so we're going to see soO, I think, kind of just return to Roach Hydra probably eventually, which is a very good answer from Mech.
Maybe some more tunneling clause this game as well. I think if you like it on Odyssey, there's absolutely no reason for you not to love it on Mech Depot as well. Especially that fort base is often a little bit out there. Maybe you can try to make something happen in the net, or even eventually just drop a couple in the main. You know, try to be as annoying as possible. As soO does get a good scout up over here, he sees the timing on the orbital, so that gives him a very good idea of where the build from SpeCial is currently at.
And SpeCial, always the gentleman, by the way, floating that barracks down the middle of the map. It is the international sign for I'm going mech. This is the most polite way to signify that you're doing that. So, I mean, soO knew it, but here you go. That's confirmation. And now he's securing that third for himself. And again, just kind of fighting back against this creep. The composition he's showing is like growing in numbers in Hellions, and actually now up to 5 Cyclones.
Now, you know,
so kind of showing it off.
This is a pretty intimidating army, but soO's got a lot of units out there, though, and he's got multiple queens with quite a bit of energy as well. These roaches are not going to show any respect to this army. They'll jump right on top of it, and if the Hellbats fall, suddenly these Cyclones are awfully exposed. And SpeCial knows this well, and he's going to go home.
I don't like that he took that fight. I think it was just kind of unfortunate math where he's like, well, I can't really transform into Hellions and get out of here. I'll just lose them for free. So he stood there and fought for a little bit. The important thing is going to be keeping these Cyclones alive, and it looks like maybe 3 or 4 are going to survive. He's going to bottleneck a fight here, but just lose units there as well.
+1 just finished up. +1 armor is also almost done for soO.
soO might just lean into this, by the way.
Yes, this is actually incredibly bad for a Mexican Terran. There isn't anti-air, so obviously the Banshee does do some work, but these roaches have done a lot of damage already. Very similar to the Odyssey push, but this time there's even less on the ground for SpeCial.
And SCVs are getting pulled, but they're just going to be so much lamb to the slaughter as these roaches are gladly going to trade them out. Kiting backwards, just kind of accepting the few losses of SCVs they'll get. 10 have died so far, even getting that Cyclone as well, and this is just not going well. If you look at the mini-map, there's more units kind of coming forward, and as Roddy pointed out, there is an anti-air until now. Here come the Hydras. Is Cloak here? I don't think so. It's going to die in the background, and SpeCial's in a lot of trouble.
This could very well be the beginning of the end. 2 siege tanks does come forward, but
they're dead. That's it. GG soO makes it easy in the semifinal and is going to the grand finals of BlizzCon. He does it in easy fashion, 3-0. Looking good, and there is SpeCial. A great run by him. A wonderful series from a foreigner, but unfortunately for him, he got outmaneuvered hard.
Yeah, fantastic tournament performance, of course, by SpeCial, but in the semi-final, this man was just a little too much to deal with. soO played so incredibly well throughout the series, switched it up as well, made it odd, made it kind of a guessing game when it came to timings, and like I said, even in that final game, just throwing SpeCial off a little bit, going up to 3 bases that incredibly fast. And he made almost no mistakes in his execution. I think the only mistakes were where he lost a few too many drones early on. Besides that, it was perfect.
Absolutely agree, Rotterdam. We're going to go to the stage with Smix now to hear from soO.
Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations, soO. Though you're no stranger to making it to the final stage, this is your first time doing so at the WCS Global Finals. Earlier in an interview, you told me that you'd be playing your heart out at this event as if it was your last. So tell us, what does it mean to you to make it to the grand finals here? 일단 결승 진출은 많이 했어도 블리츠컨에서 결승 진출은 처음이잖아요. 그리고 예전에 인터뷰 저랑 같이 했을 때 이번 대회가 마지막이라고 생각을 하고 열심히 하겠다. 그래서 그만큼 더 의미가 있을 것 같은데 결승 진출한 소감 얘기해 주세요.
뭐든지 이제 처음이 가장 중요한데 제가 GS에 처음 결승 갔을 때 준우승으로 시작해가지고 계속 준우승만 했던 것 같은데 이번에는 꼭 우승으로 시작을 해서 꼭 다음에도 꼭 우승할 수 있도록 꼭 준비 열심히 해서 꼭 우승하도록 하겠습니다.
So he says, I think with every experience, it's that first experience that is the most impactful and very important. I remember when I made it to my first GSL finals and I got second place, and that's when all these second places at the GSL started. But because this is my first time at the finals of BlizzCon, at the WCS Global Finals, I'm going to ensure that I can become champion here, and that next time at my next tournament, I can continue this streak of becoming a champion. So I'm really going to look forward to that finals and going to try to become a champion. And now, Sue, in this semifinal match, you were up against SpeCial, who is a close friend of yours, and I know that you guys also practiced together. Because of that, were there mind games involved as you prepared for this series? 일단 SpeCial 선수는 친한 친구이기도 하고 같이 연습도 하는 걸로 알고 있는데 그것 때문에 좀 심리전을 이용해서 준비를 해왔나요?
이제 외국인 프로게이머들이 실력적으로는 이제 비슷한데 한국 사람들이랑 근데 이제 심리전에서 좀 약한 것 같아요. 그래서 제가 그거를 잘 이용했던 게 잘 먹힌 것 같아요.
So he says, when it comes to the non-Koreans, they're definitely very skilled, just as skilled as the Koreans. But the one thing I have to say is their weakness is I definitely think they're a little bit behind when it comes to the mind games. And that's exactly what I utilized and took advantage of. And that's why I was able to win and make it to the finals. And last but not least, Sue, in the grand finals, you have Rogue, who's the GSL Super Tournament 2 champion. Or on the other side, you have TY, who's the IM Katowice champion. So who do you expect to rise up to meet you in the grand finals? 일단 결승전에서는 임양열 선수 GSL 슈퍼 토너먼트 우승자 아니면 반대편에는 전태양 선수 IM 카토위체 우승자인데 누가 올라올 것 같으세요?
둘 다 너무 요새 잘하는 선수들이라서 진짜 누가 돼도 솔직히 만나고 싶지 않은데 그래도 뽑자면은 그래도 병렬이가 좀 더 나을 것 같아요.
So he says both of those players are players that have been doing so well lately, and if I'm going to be really honest, neither are players I wanted to face in the grand finals, but if you really make me choose, I think it's going to be Rogue. So congratulations again, Sue. And with that, we have our first grand finalist here at the WCS Global Finals.